And yeah, we were connected because you have a book coming out. And so someone reached out and said, Bernard has this book coming out. It's about generative AI. Would you like to have it on your show? And our regular listeners know that we're constantly talking about generative AI. But this episode is a little bit different from what we usually are covering on the show because often we're in the weeds on large language models and open source libraries for training and deploying LLMs. Today's episode actually should appeal to just about anyone who's interested in generative AI and how they can be making the most of it in their lives, including their business place. So, you're the best-selling author of over 20 books. This latest book is called Generative AI in Practice, 100 plus amazing ways generative AI is changing business and society. In it, you've boldly stated that generative AI represents the most powerful technology humans have created. In your view, Bernard, what makes it deserving? What makes generative AI deserving of this distinction compared to past innovations? And how profoundly could it change people's everyday lives in the next decade?
Yeah, very good. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I believe generative AI will transform every industry, every business, and every job in the world. And I don't think we've had technologies that will have had this massive impact. We've had other technologies like steam and electricity and computers that have triggered these industrial revolutions. What I am now seeing is that we have a number of different technologies that could all probably individually trigger some sort of industrial revolution. If we spoke a year and a half ago, we would be talking about the metaverse. I don't really like the term. I like extended reality or more immersive worlds. And I believe that generative AI will impact some of these other transformative technologies like the immersive technology. So for me, a really good example is when we talked about the metaverse, people said, okay, I want an online store that people can explore in VR. But I needed a game developer, a game designer to design this for me. And that was expensive. Now I can simply put a prompt into an AI tool to create any type of design I want. And I can jointly develop this until I'm super happy with it. So it will enable other technologies. Then we have technologies like quantum computing that will accelerate AI. We have technology like blockchain that will have a fundamental impact on how we use AI and data in the future, potentially. We have other really huge advances in nanotechnology and gene editing and around science and healthcare that AI will will accelerate massively. So I believe that this is creating this new world of hyper innovation where generative AI sits in the eye of the storm, and it will be influenced by other technologies and will influence other technologies. And this is why I believe it is so fundamental.
That's a great answer. That idea of hyper innovation makes so much sense to me across so many industries. One in particular that I get really excited about is in energy. So things like fusion energy, which has been the energy source of the future, that's supposed to be coming kind of in 2 decades. And we've been saying that since like the 50s or something. But now it does seem like we are potentially really on the precipice of it, with AI playing a key role in things like keeping the plasma contained. In a lot of the fusion approaches involve tokamak reactors, and AI can be critical in keeping the plasma from touching the walls in this reactor and allowing us to have real commercial fusion in potentially the near future. And so when I think about hyper innovation, that's going to be facilitated by this intelligence that you've just been talking about. Plus, if we have abundant energy, I mean, things could be really crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I also believe that we need this powerful technology in order to solve some of the world's biggest problems. For me, energy is one of the biggest problems, and we have huge challenges around climate change. If we can solve that, that would be a massive boost for everything on the planet. But we also have so many other huge challenges in the world, like inequality to healthcare, inequality to education, and all of these sectors could be potentially transformed. And in so many ways, generative AI can democratize and make access universally accessible to these. So I'm super excited about all of this. And even before we get to fusion, we can use AI to help us improve the data usage in our data centers. And Google has done this very successfully, where they reduce the energy used by 30%. If we now look at, okay, how can we replicate this for the entire energy grid in the US and around the world, that would be amazing if we can save 30% of energy. And how can we use it to make better batteries, maybe using fewer rare earth materials and other things. So I have a real hope that this technology will give us humans this superpower to solve some of the biggest problems we're facing.
For sure. And some of those innovations that you mentioned there around healthcare inequality and education inequality, one of the nice things about those is those can be tackled with Gen AI without necessarily us needing that much more energy. Those kinds of innovations, that kind of equality could potentially be delivered on a handheld phone device. And it might not be very long before we have large language models working on the edge in phones or other small devices and allowing people to learn whatever they want, get answers to medical questions that represent the best expertise better than you could get from any individual teacher or any individual physician. So I'm really glad that you brought those up as well.
Yeah, and it's a great point. For me, there's ubiquitous connectivity and ubiquitous computing, as I call it, is another huge trend that impacts obviously AI. So with 5G, we can untether AI from our Wi-Fi networks. With edge computing, we can bring it to our smartphones, and that is super exciting because again, it optimizes the use. We don't have to send everything back to the cloud and to a data center, and we can leverage the increasing power that we have on our devices and in our glasses and whatever we might be using in the future to access the digital world.